Hello everybody, Sorbeaten here, and welcome back to another past paper video. In this video, I will be tackling some geometry questions, so let's head straight into this question. So the question says, the diagram below represents the graph of a straight line which passes through the points P and Q. So this is basically explaining what's going on in this diagram. So the first question says, state the coordinates of P and Q. So let's state the coordinates of P. So the coordinates of P would be this point here. So we see we go across 0 times and we go up 3 times. So the coordinates here would be 0, 3. And the coordinates of Q would be, we see we go across -2 times. So we go across -2 on the x-axis. We go across -2. And we go up 0 times. For P, let me just draw that. We go across 0 times and we go up 3 times. So those are the coordinates for P and Q, as easy as that, to give away marks. So the next question says, determine the gradient of the line segment PQ. So you want to determine the gradient of this line segment. So we can say, so this part is BI, so I'll work it right here. So the gradient of the line segment PQ would be, so we know the symbol for gradient is M. So there are 2 ways in which we can determine the gradient of PQ. The first thing, we can use the formula, the change in y over the change in x, which is the change in y over the change in x. So the change in y means it will be y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. That's the formula for gradient, the change in y over the change in x. So the gradient would be, so we already have the coordinates of P and Q. So this is x, this is y, this is x, this is y. So we just label this x1, y1, x2, y2. It doesn't matter which one is x1 or y1, as long as this is x1, this one has to be y1. All right, so this could have been x2, but just that this would have been y2 as well. And the same thing goes for the formula. We could have had y1 minus y2, just that this has to be over x1 minus x2. So it doesn't matter. So no need to cram which one will go first, anyone. So y2 is 0, subtract y1, which is 3, over x2, which is -2, subtract x1, which is 0. So the gradient here would be 0 subtract 3 would be a -3, over -2 subtract 0 is a -2. And of course, we cannot leave -3 over -2. We can simply cancel out the negatives. Some persons would have left this as -3 over -2. We cannot do that. So the gradient would be equal to 3 over 2. And that is how we get our 2 marks. So the next question says, determine the equation of the line segment PQ. So you want the equation of the line segment PQ. So I'll do that question right here. So the equation, so let me do II. So the equation would be, we know the general form for the equation of a straight line. It's y equal mx plus c, in which the only thing we want to replace in this here would be the gradient, which is m, and the y-intercept, which is c. So we already have the gradient, which is 3 over 2. So we already have m. The next thing we need is c. Now c represents the y-intercept. In other words, the part of the graph that crosses the y-axis. And we see the graph crosses the y-axis at 3. So c is equal to 3. Since c is equal to 3, and we have the gradient being 3 over 2, so we can say the equation of this line, we don't replace y and x, we leave that as it is. So it will be y equals m, which is the gradient, 3 over 2x plus c, which is 3. And this would be the equation of the line segment PQ, as easy as that. So the next part of the question says, the point -8t lies on the line segment PQ, determine the value of t. So let me get back the equation to the line, which is y equal 3 over 2x. So y equal 3 over 2x plus 3. So they said that the point 8 So this is the x and this is y. So the point AT lies on the line segment PQ. So we already have the equation of the line. So it lies on this line. So they want us to determine the value of t. So what we do, we just replace this here in the formula for x and y, and we find for t. So we see y would be equal to the t that we want to find. So we want the t part of the coordinate. 3 over 2 multiplied by x in this case is negative 8 plus 3. And we solve for t. So t would simply equal to, so we do 3 multiplied by negative 8, which would be a negative 24. So we do multiply here. And then we divide it by this 2. So we divide by 2, which will give me a negative 12 plus 3. So t would be equal to negative 12 plus 3 would give me a negative 9. So t is equal to a negative 9. And the last part of the question says, the line segment AB is perpendicular to PQ and passes through 6, 2. Determine the equation of AB in the form y equal mx plus c. So it says that the line segment AB, which is a new line segment, is perpendicular to PQ. So when two lines or two line segments are perpendicular, that means they share a relationship in the gradient. So the gradient of one line, the other gradient, the gradient of PQ will be perpendicular to AB. So for the gradient, we can say the gradient AB would be the negative reciprocal of the gradient PQ. Meaning, when we multiply the gradient of the first one by the gradient of the second one, we will get a negative 1. And we can work this out and solve for the other one. Or we can think of it as the gradient of AB would be the negative reciprocal of the gradient of PQ. So the gradient of PQ is 3 over 2. So therefore, the gradient of AB would be the negative reciprocal of this, meaning we flip it and we flip the fraction and we change the signs. So instead of 3 over 2, it will be 2 over 3. And since this is a positive, then this one would be a negative. So it's a negative reciprocal, which is negative 2 over 3. So we therefore have the gradient for AB. So the next thing we need to do is find the y-intercept, because we know the general form for the equation is y equal mx plus c. We already have the gradient, and we found this because of the relationship between two perpendicular lines. So they told us that the line passes through this point, and we know this here would be x, and this would be y. So we already have x and y. The next thing we need to do is find c. So we can now substitute. So we know y is equal to 2 equal the gradient, which is negative 2 over 3, multiplied by x, which is 6, plus c. So we can work this out. So we have 2 is equal to negative 2 times 6 would be a negative 12 over 3 plus c. So negative 12 divided by 3 would simply give me a negative 4. So negative 4 plus c. So therefore, c would be equal to 2 plus 4 would be 6. So we have c and we have the gradient. So now we can say the equation of this line would be y equals the gradient, which is negative 2 over 3 x plus c, which is 6. And this would be the equation of the straight line. And with that, this has brought me to the end of this video, in which I tackled some geometry questions. So I trust that you have a good understanding, and I want you to continue practicing. Look for questions like these, practice, and I'll see you in the next video, in which I'll be tackling some more questions. Until then, take care and keep practicing.